Begin the foot massage by providing some effleurage, spreading your medium of choice. I like to use coconut oil, and on the foot, I'll use a little bit of cream just to get a little more traction with the stones. Do a little hot stone effleurage over the lower leg and even into the ankle before you work on the foot. Here I'm doing some circular kneading with the stones. The heat is going to help to open up all the areas around the foot, and it's also going to help to drain some of the fluid away from the foot after you've worked on the foot with the hot stones. As you guys can see here, I'm working up the sides into the ankle, into the Achilles tendon, and around the calf. I like to work around the Achilles tendon. Here I'm using 2 jade stones, which are really smooth. When you're working with Achilles tendonitis or plantar fasciitis, especially if it's been chronic, using heat can be really beneficial. It can help to stimulate blood supply and facilitate the healing process. As you guys can see here, I'm moving slowly, circular motions, and I'm stretching out around the Achilles. A really nice technique to start with the foot is to warm it up, and this is what I like to call a foot hug. So here I'm using stones on either side of the foot, and this is just helping to warm up the area before we go in and work a little more specifically. So I like to do this by covering the entirety of the foot with the stones. Getting more specific, I like to take a smaller hot stone and I'll rub along the toes, and this is said in foot reflexology to open up the sinuses. So I'll rub around the toes and then I'll press down for 10 seconds on the top of each toe. As you guys can see here, I'm holding the foot with one hand to support the toes. And this is just a nice kind of stimulatory but also relaxing technique. And you'd be surprised how well this works. I've actually had clients say to me that their sinus is drained. I don't even know how, but somehow it actually does really work. Press down, nice, even, firm pressure, 10 seconds on each toe. Now, after you've done that, you can take the stone and just open up each individual toe. So here I'm opening up in between 2 toes, and I'm going to follow that along all the webbing and openings. And I'm just pressing down, I'm providing a little bit of heat, and this is nice for creating some separation and opening up the foot. My old teacher would say that we lock our feet up in leather coffins all day. And so this is going to be a technique that feels really good. It's a joint mobilization technique. So I'm taking the edge of the stone, I'm pressing in, and then I'm flexing and extending the toes, creating a little bit of joint mobilization, which is going to help with a feeling of freedom afterwards and really opening up all the joints. So something that's pretty cool to think about is that you can actually do foot reflexology with hot stones. Similarly, even if you don't know foot reflexology or you haven't taken my foot reflexology course or someone else's, you can use the stones to just press on certain points. It's a good way to see if there's any points that are particularly tight. And if there is, you can do a trigger point release by just pressing in with the hot stone and then using the hot stone afterwards to do a bit of effleurage to work out the area or any specific adhesions. Another technique that I really, really love with the hot stones is using the heat to do a little bit of movement release. So here I'm taking the toes, I'm taking the foot, and I've got a nice stone that's quite hot and quite broad. And I'm going to be working across the entirety of the foot in the plantar fascia. As you guys can see, I'm stretching that out as I stretch the foot. And you could do that at the top of the foot and throughout the plantar surface. Now, using the edge of the stone will be a little more specific, but you can also use the flat of the stone if this is too intense for any of your clients or anyone you know. And you just want to make sure that you do quite a few passes with it. Next up, you can actually work in between the toes. So here I'm using the edge of the stone to work in between all of the toes, just below them. And you're almost, I don't want to say sawing, but you're using the stone in kind of a sawing like motion in between the toes. Then another nice technique with the stones, because they can be a little bit hard to move on the plantar surface of the foot due to how tight it is, you can do this kind of twist technique where you press in and twist. And you could use quite a bit of pressure with this. And it's one that I really, really like. So you press and twist, and it's good for anyone with plantar fasciitis, any type of foot pain. You're increasing that tissue extensibility and a feeling of opening in the plantar surface of the foot. And just make sure to do quite a few passes with that stone to open everything up. I like to jostle the foot with 2 hot stones on either side of the foot. This helps to get some circulation going, and the heat feels really nice on the medial and lateral side of the foot. Then I like to do some nice circular motions with the hot stones. This opens up around the arches, around those edges there, and we're getting a nice complete treatment for the entire foot. I'll work all the way down into the heel and then back up using circular motions with a nice consistent flow, bringing the client into that hypnotic state, getting them to feel just how good this heat feels on the foot. I like to work very specifically around the heel. Plantar fasciitis typically causes a stabbing pain in the bottom of your foot near the heel. So if there's any points of tension, any tissue that feels kind of stuck, I like to get very specific with the stone. I'll sink in with the stone and just kind of comb out the area. Now, after I've done combing out around the heel, I'll just press in specifically right on the heel with the stone, allowing the heat to absorb in. And then I'll even press in with the palm of my hand and do some circular motions around the heel. This is mobilizing the tissue, you're mobilizing the joint a bit, and you're getting things moving. Then I'll do some nice twist and movement techniques to open up specifically the muscle tissue all around that area. Another thing that you can do with the foot is you can work doing some contrast therapy. As you guys can see here, I have a marble stone. When I'm working with the cold stones, I like to move quite fast, and you're kind of just really briskly working over the area, and the cold can be very stimulating. So you're going to work for about 10 seconds with the cold, and you're going to work in this very brisk motion as I'm showing you guys right here. Then you're going to take a hot stone and you're going to work a little bit slower. You're going to press it in. The heat is going to be very relaxing. So contrast therapy is good to use, especially if you want to kind of get rid of inflammation in an area. So if anyone has kind of repetitive strain injuries, tendinitis, they have a flare-up with the chronic conditions, this is going to be a really good way of getting rid of kind of swelling and aching in the foot. So you want to start with cold, and then you want to move to heat, then back to cold, and then heat. And you'd want to finish with cold if you were doing a contrast therapy treatment. So just make sure that you work around the entirety of the foot. You can even press in on certain points with the cold stone, especially if they have a point that's particularly inflamed or just feeling kind of just not great. The cold will feel really good. Then alternate, get your hot stone back and work around those areas, working the plantar surface. And then just do some nice presses. Use the heat. So using temperature to your advantage is something that requires a little more effort, especially if you're just doing a normal massage. But it's something that is so beneficial, and I think it will really take anyone's normal therapeutic massage to a whole new level, and especially if someone has foot issues. Just make sure you work all around the foot with that cold stone. And you could even do some nice little mobilizations as you work in with the stone. To finish off my hot stone foot massage, I like to use this toe spreading technique. So I'll place stones in between all of the toes, and this is good for relieving foot pain, for realigning the toes, and helping with common foot injuries. And it just feels good. You can cover the client up and then go work on the other foot, or you can leave it in the open air. That's just up to you.